Okay, I'm just going to show you how to do some curved piecing, which is very exciting. I haven't actually done this myself for a while. So I've got two pieces here. I've got the inner curve, the inner circle, and the outer piece. So what I'm going to do first and foremost, I've marked and then ironed it off. Okay, that's a great start. What I've done on here, because I actually ended up enlarging the piece, so I just want to measure where my needle is going to wants to hit in order for it to be on the seam allowance, slightly over to the right. So obviously you can't, or not on all machines can you actually move the needle over. If you can't, just find another way. I've got a really wide foot on my machine, so actually my needle, even if it's in the middle, is miles away from everywhere else. You might just find that on yours the difference between your needle and the edge of the foot is exactly the right seam allowance. It doesn't really matter if you, maybe it does matter actually, now ignore that, maybe it does matter if you have your seam allowance too big or too small, because then the two curves probably won't fit together. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to determine the middle of all of these curves. So just going to fold this piece together, no stretching, and then that foldy bit, you can do it with pins, but I always quite like having a really visual clue. So take a tiny little triangle out, tiny, tiny, tiny. You see, nice visual clue. And then I'm going to do the same on the curve, on the quarter circle. So now I'm going to pin this together. Eventually you might find that you can do this without pinning, but not initially, that's for sure. So right sides together, this is the right side, that's the right side. And I'm going to just line up those. Obviously it feels very counterintuitive at this point. I'm just going to line these two up and put a pin across, perpendicular like that. And I'm going to pull the edges together, so like so. I'll put a pin in there, and then the same with that one. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people online. I think I used to do it as well, just so without pins, literally just fold them together. Now you can see here, if I was to, oh dear, I wonder if it's actually worked. It does feel like one's a bit longer than the other. Just stretching these so they meet. Yeah, can you see that? I'm literally just pulling one into the other. So this is also what you do when you're sewing sleeves. It's pretty much exactly the same thing. So then put in as many pins as you need to hold these two edges together. Just move this pin slightly. I'll just pull this back up. In a way, those pins at the ends are probably, well, and the one in the middle, the most important ones, because actually, look, that's just skewed. These edges need to line up flat. So I would certainly not take the end pins out. Look at that, these two are together. So now, so even though we obviously initially look like we've got more of the green than the white, just squeeze them in, ease them in, use a bunch of pins. So this is what I will say when you're easing in sleeves, you're the boss. Yeah, you're the boss of the fabric. Make it fit, make it behave. So now we've got the two pinned in. So I'm just going to sew. Just wondering, just wondering which way up to sew. So this is the other good thing about pinning perpendicular and leaving your pin head sticking way out. I never ever ever push mine all the way in because it distorts your fabric, and also you need to be able to whip them out easily, and this way you can just decide which way around you want to stitch. I'm going to stitch on this curve because I'm a bit worried if I stitch on the other side I might accidentally stitch pleats in on this side. So here goes. Can you see this has just moved over a tiny little bit? I'm just going to squeeze these together. So foot down, needle down. I don't have room, I'm just going to take that first pin out. I don't have room to go back here. Luckily on my machine I've got an option to stitch in place. If you can change the stitch length on your machine, just put it on 0. Okay, now very slowly. Here goes. Keep the edge of your foot level with the, and take the pins out as you go. When you see, I don't know if you can see, there's a pleat happening here, don't let that happen. So if you need to, just lift your foot up, move that pleat away from the edge so you're not stitching it in. Okay, so I'm just, it will be worse in some places than in others. So you can see I have just started stitching over pins, just very, very, very slowly. So some bits of the curve are just a bit more tricky than others. You can see here it's quite easy, I'm just smoothing the fabric out as we go. It's really, really, really important here to go quite slowly. Nothing to be gained by racing here. Do make sure you back stitch or stitch in place at the end. So now we've sewn our curve. Let's take these 2 pins out as well. Look at that. Now this looks like a pleat, but it isn't really. I'm just going to press that, and so the seam naturally wants to fall to the outside. So I'll just go with that. Look at that, so you can see the seam behind here is folded that way. Gorgeous, right?